man calmly walks onto a high school baseball field carrying a shotgun, and no one screams, because in a place like this, violence still feels impossible, right up until it isn't. Within hours, an entire town will be sealed off, quietly erased, and officially blamed on a chemical accident that never truly explains what happened or why no one was saved. The Crazies may look like a standard horror remake, but behind the military roadblocks and burning houses is a film obsessed with realism. Actors were trapped for hours under medical-grade prosthetics inspired by real human breakdowns. On-screen coordinates point to locations you can still find today, and the infected aren't zombies at all. They're people stripped of restraint. Today on Iconic TV Rewind, we're uncovering 15 of the most disturbing and easily missed facts behind the Crazies. The remake that doesn't ask if this could happen, but where. Fact number 1. 21 pieces of makeup hell. Becoming one of the infected in the Crazies wasn't just a matter of smearing on fake blood and yelling at the camera. For the actors playing the Crazies, every appearance began with an exhausting ordeal that could last close to 3 hours before filming even started. Makeup artists applied more than 20 separate prosthetic pieces to the face and head, layering veins, tightened muscles, and unnatural tension designed to make each performer look like their body was physically betraying them. The goal wasn't gore for gore's sake. Director Breck Eisner and the effects team wanted the infection to feel like extreme stress made visible, as if the human nervous system had been pushed past its breaking point. To complete the look, many actors wore full sclera contact lenses that covered the entire eye, drying them out so badly that filming had to stop regularly just to apply lubricating drops. The discomfort wasn't an accident. The exhaustion and irritation you see on screen are real, and that physical punishment is part of why the infected performances feel so intense and unsettling. Fact number 2, Romero still haunts this remake. Although The Crazies was remade in 2010, the shadow of its creator never left the film. George A. Romero, who directed the original 1973 version, is credited as an executive producer, officially tying the remake to its cult classic roots. But the connection goes deeper than a credit buried at the end of the film. Sharp-eyed viewers can spot visual nods to the original scattered throughout the movie, including subtle background details that feel like quiet winks to longtime horror fans. One of the most meaningful tributes comes in the form of Lynn Lowry, who starred in Romero's original film and reappears here decades later as one of the infected townspeople. It's a blink-and-you-miss-it moment, but for fans of the original, it's a reminder that this story didn't start in 2010, and that the themes Romero explored nearly 40 years earlier are still hauntingly relevant. Fact number 3, they refuse to call them zombies. Despite how often The Crazies gets lumped in with zombie movies, the filmmakers went out of their way to reject that label. Director Breck Eisner didn't want slow-moving corpses or mindless hordes. Instead, the infection known as Trixie was designed to amplify whatever was already inside a person: rage, paranoia, fear, or instability, and push it to a violent extreme. That decision changes everything about how the horror works. The infected don't behave the same way because they aren't driven by hunger or instinct. Some snap suddenly, others become eerily calm. Some plan, manipulate, or pretend they're still normal until it's too late. This unpredictability is what makes the film so tense because there's no clear rulebook for survival. Anyone could turn at any moment, and when they do, they're still recognizably human, just stripped of restraint. Fact number 4, the coordinates that point to a real place. One of the creepiest details in The Crazies is something most viewers never think to check. When the crashed military plane is shown on screen, the satellite coordinates displayed aren't random numbers. They actually point to a real rural location in Iowa that you can still find on a map today. That small choice grounds the film in reality in a way that feels almost invasive. Instead of placing the disaster in a vague, fictional nowhere, the movie quietly anchors it to an actual place: farmland, roads, and empty stretches that exist outside the screen. It's a subtle trick, but it works. The outbreak no longer feels like something confined to a movie world. It feels like something that could have happened somewhere you've driven past without noticing. Fact number 5, a town that doesn't exist but almost does. Ogden Marsh may be fictional, but it was carefully constructed from real places to make it feel authentic. Most of the movie was filmed in Georgia, where the production built streets, interiors, and large-scale action sequences. But key exterior and establishing shots were filmed in Iowa, including the small town of Lenox, whose identity quietly slips into the film if you know where to look. Early in the movie, the local high school baseball team wears jerseys labeled Lenox, a detail that briefly breaks the illusion, but also reinforces how grounded the setting really is. Ogden Marsh feels real because it's stitched together from real towns, real fields, and real infrastructure. That blend is deliberate. The filmmakers wanted the setting to feel familiar enough that viewers could imagine living there, which makes watching it get erased that much more disturbing. Fact number 6. The farmhouse fire was designed to feel uncomfortably real. One of the most disturbing moments in the Crazies doesn't rely on jump scares or fast editing at all. The farmhouse fire works because it's staged with an almost documentary-level restraint. When Bill locks his wife and son inside and calmly burns the house down, the scene avoids dramatic music cues or exaggerated performances. Instead, it focuses on mundane details, the crackle of the fire, the creaking of the structure, and Bill's eerily controlled behavior. That restraint is what makes the moment so unsettling. The horror comes from how believable it feels, as if the infection hasn't turned Bill into a monster, but into someone who believes he's making a rational decision. Critics and audiences alike often single out this sequence as one of the film's emotional breaking points, because it shows how the virus doesn't just create violence, it strips away empathy while leaving logic behind. It's not flashy, but it's devastating. Fact number 7. The car wash scene was built to be a nightmare. Few scenes in the Crazies are as memorable as the car wash attack, and that's no accident. The sequence was deliberately designed to turn an everyday harmless location into a claustrophobic death trap. As the characters hide from a military helicopter, the car wash becomes a confined maze of spinning brushes, blasting water, and blinding foam that limits visibility and disorients both the characters and the audience. The infected employees activating the machinery turns something routine into something predatory, and the overwhelming mechanical noise replaces traditional music cues, making it harder to process what's happening. The terror doesn't come from monsters bursting through walls, but from being trapped in a place that suddenly has no clear exit. It's a perfect example of the film's strength, taking familiar spaces and weaponizing them through realism and pressure rather than spectacle. Fact number 8. Endless fields that still leave nowhere to run. Director Breck Eisner made deliberate use of the flat Midwestern landscape to flip a common horror expectation on its head. Instead of tight corridors or dark forests, the Crazies places much of its action in wide-open fields, where danger can be seen coming from miles away. But that visibility doesn't bring safety. It creates a different kind of dread. With nowhere to hide and nowhere to disappear, characters are exposed from every direction. The openness becomes its own form of claustrophobia, emphasizing how powerless the townspeople really are. Whether it's the infected approaching across empty land or military vehicles rolling in from the horizon, the environment constantly reinforces the idea that escape is an illusion. You can see what's coming, and there's nothing you can do about it. Fact number 9. The infection was built from real medical horror. The disturbing look of the infected wasn't dreamed up in isolation. The effects team grounded their designs in real-world medical imagery, drawing inspiration from conditions involving extreme physical stress, neurological breakdown, and visible trauma. The goal was to make the infection feel like something rooted in reality rather than fantasy, as if the human body itself were rebelling. That grounding extended beyond appearance. Actors playing the infected often sat through hours of makeup application before filming, leaving them physically drained before the cameras even rolled. The full sclera contact lenses, combined with tight prosthetics and heat from lighting, made performances genuinely uncomfortable. That discomfort bleeds through on screen, giving the infected a raw, exhausted quality that makes them far more unsettling than traditional movie monsters. Fact number 10. Real first responders helped sell the chaos. To make Ogden Marsh feel authentic in its earliest moments of crisis, the production leaned on people who understood emergency situations firsthand. Some background roles were filled by locals familiar with police, fire, and emergency response work, helping ground crowd behavior and reaction scenes in reality rather than movie exaggeration. That authenticity matters, especially in the early stages of the outbreak. The confusion feels natural, the hesitation feels earned. Instead of instantly panicking or acting heroically, people respond the way real communities do: uncertain, procedural, and slow to grasp the scale of what's happening. It's another subtle choice that makes the film's escalation feel believable, and it's part of why the transition from small-town routine to full military lockdown feels so disturbingly smooth. Fact number 11. A mid-budget horror that quietly paid off. The Crazies didn't arrive with blockbuster expectations, but it didn't need them. Produced for roughly $20 million, the film went on to earn just under $55 million worldwide, making it a quiet financial success rather than a flashy hit. For a horror remake without a massive franchise name attached, that performance mattered. It proved there was still an audience for grounded, serious horror that trusted atmosphere over spectacle. The film didn't rely on novelty gimmicks or extreme excess to sell tickets. Instead, it leaned into tension, realism, and restraint, and audiences responded. That commercial success is part of why The Crazies has endured, not just as a remake that worked, but as one that justified its existence by doing something different with familiar material. Fact number 12. Even the end credits lie to you. Most horror movies wrap up their story before the credits roll, but The Crazies quietly keeps talking after the characters disappear. During the end credits, a fictional news report from Cedar Rapids explains the disaster as a chemical plant explosion, offering the public a clean, simple explanation that erases the truth. There's no mention of Trixie, no mention of a biological weapon, no acknowledgement that an entire town was deliberately destroyed. This brief news clip reframes everything you've just watched, revealing that the official story is already being rewritten. The horror doesn't end with survival or death. It ends with denial. The outside world moves on, unaware that the real cause of the outbreak has been buried along with the town itself. Fact number 13. The containment protocol was never about saving anyone. As the film reaches its final moments, the scale of the situation quietly expands. Satellite imagery appears on screen, accompanied by military text reading, "Initiate Containment Protocol," now hovering over a much larger population center. The implication is chilling. What happened to Ogden Marsh isn't an exception. It's a procedure. The military response is no longer reactive. It's prepared, organized, rehearsed. Whether the main characters are infected or not is left deliberately ambiguous, but the message is clear. The solution hasn't changed. The same scorched earth response is ready to be deployed again, this time on a far greater scale. Escape in this world doesn't mean safety. It just means you haven't been erased yet. Fact number 14. The town was dying long before the virus. Long before Trixie ever entered the water supply, Ogden Marsh was already fading. The production design makes this subtle but unmistakable. Storefronts look dated. Signage feels worn. The town lacks the polished presence of modern chain businesses. It's a place slowly slipping out of relevance. That choice adds an extra layer of tragedy to the story. The outbreak doesn't destroy a thriving community. It finishes off one that was already being forgotten. When the military wipes Ogden Marsh from the map, there's a sense that no one outside the town will fight to remember it. The infection becomes just another chapter in a longer story of quiet erasure. Fact number 15. The virus was never meant to stay in Ogden Marsh. Taken together, the film's clues point to a disturbing implication. Trixie isn't treated like an accident. It's treated like a weapon. Military dialogue focuses on containment failure, not prevention. The cover story suggests this wasn't the first incident, just the first one that couldn't be hidden cleanly. Ogden Marsh doesn't feel like a singular tragedy. It feels like a test that went wrong. And when the film ends with preparations already underway somewhere else, the final horror isn't that the characters might be infected. It's that the system responsible for the outbreak is still intact, still operational, and still willing to erase entire populations to protect itself. The nightmare doesn't end. It scales. So which part of The Crazies disturbed you the most? The medical-grade makeup nightmare? The farmhouse fire? or the realization that Ogden Marsh may have been just a test run? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more hidden horror stories here on Iconic TV Rewind.